Hello, my name is Dave Syme. I'm one of the founders and principals in Advanced EcoScience. Today, I want to give you a little bit of background on Humates, and then I also want to give you some background on our product, specifically the Innovation H1, and why it and how it compares to the competition. So first, we're going to talk generalities about what are Humates and why are they so good. And then the second part of this video is going to be why is ours the best Humate out there? Okay, so it's kind of a two-step video here. So let's get started with what are Humates? Well, at the simplest explanation, they're basically a certain kind of coal, okay? Which sounds boring. It sounds like, wow, that doesn't sound like it does much. But here's what coal is. Coal is when you have, over prehistoric times, there have been miles and miles of vegetation, dead animals, all kinds of things that have stacked up in the strata. And over millions of years, and those dead plants and animals and all of that contained a lot of very nice nutrients, okay? The photosynthesis process that plants go through allow them to manufacture wonderful proteins, phosphates, vitamins, minerals, all kinds of great stuff that has been synthesized by the plants and animals, and it's very beneficial nutrition to the plants and to animals and everything. But they're power-packed, pre-processed nutrients. Okay, and what happens is all that nutrition gets compressed down into coal, into 5 feet of coal. And all the goodness and nutrition that used to be in all that 5 miles is now in the 5 feet of coal, okay? And the compounds are not destroyed. They're still there. The nutrients are there. The minerals are there. The phosphates are there. All of the good stuff that was in all that nutrition above is now in this particular kind of coal. Now, it's not normal coal. It's special coal called leonardite. After Dr. Leonard, who discovered this stuff and discovered, what it is. Now, the other thing I want to point out is that this stuff has been known by farmers since Roman times. And this is nothing new, okay? Farmers have always known that this is great stuff. They've never known scientifically why it's great stuff, but they've known that it's great stuff. Let's go into some of the properties of the Humates, and they're fantastic what they do in the soil. One of the things that they do is a thing called chelation, okay? Now remember, roots are a semi-permeable membrane, okay? They let some things in, they don't let other things in. That's their job, is to be the gatekeeper and decide what should get into the plant and what shouldn't. And it's also their job to recognize things that are goodies in the soil, grab them and pull them into the root structure, okay? The problem is the roots sometimes aren't very good at recognizing the good stuff in the soil. They're not always able to recognize the vitamins, the minerals, the phosphates, all the good fancy stuff that's in the soil. A lot of times they don't see it, okay? And there's a thing called chelation where the Humates actually find a good nutrient and they bond with it and make it look like a protein or something else. And what happens is the root structure says, oh, look at that. That's a good thing. I'm going to grab that. And it lets it through the semi-permeable membrane and into the plant. Later, they dissociate and the plant can use that nutrient. So one of the many things that Humates do is they help the plant recognize good stuff and get more nutrition, the nutrition that's already in the plant, it's already in the soil, recognize it and let it through the semi-permeable membrane. More nutrition, better use. Now this is good stuff because if you're fertilizing, a lot of the fertilizer, it doesn't get noticed. The plant doesn't see it as a good thing. It doesn't take it up, and you've basically wasted your fertilizer. With the Humates, they chelate, they grab hold, and give it an escort through that semi-permeable membrane. Try saying that 3 times. And it actually is able to be used. So what fertilizer you do use becomes much more efficient, okay? Much more effectively absorbed by the plant. That's one thing that it does. Another thing that it does is the Humates, the EPA recommends using Humates in any toxic cleanup situation. Most soil has some toxins in the soil, and they're there, and the plants sometimes uptake them, okay? And the humates have very strong receptor sites for a lot of the toxic compounds in the soil, and they will actually grab the toxic chemicals in the soil, the old pesticides, a lot of the bad stuff, and they help clean up the soil. And they do this everywhere, and that's why the EPA says that you should always use humates in almost any cleanup effort. Well, almost every farmer out there has some level of toxicity, and the humates really help to quarantine and grab and take those toxic things out of the game. Okay, that's the second thing that it does. A third thing that it does is it buffers the pH in the soil. All soil has some pH issues. Okay, they're not always the right pH, the desirable pH. And let me tell you why pH is so important. What you'll find is a lot of the nutrients are stuck onto and electrically bonded to some of the larger molecules, and they're not in solution. The roots can't get to them. They're not free floating. When the pH is right, those things release and float into become soluble, and they run around in the soil, and they're now available to the roots. So the right pH allows that natural process of releasing the nutrients from their bonds and letting them become available to the root structure. Okay, that was number 3. Number 4. Okay, we're getting there. The humates actually have a treasure trove of phenomenal nutrients, all kinds of great compounds that again came from that stack of vegetation that actually created them. And they bring a lot of great nutrition to the soil that wasn't there before. So in and of themselves, not only do they help the plant use what's in the soil better, but they bring a lot of good to the party. Okay, number 5. Most soil has in it silica wafers. That's the stuff they use in Silicon Valley to make the chips. It's actually silica, and it's almost transparent, super thin stuff. And it is very prevalent in the soil. It's everywhere. And those silica wafers, in the presence of the humates, become 3-dimensional. They go from being an ultra thinner than a human hair. They blow up and become like a box, a 3-dimensional square, and they can absorb a ton of moisture. Okay. Now you know this because when you get a box from Amazon, it has that little packet in it, right, of silica gel. And then they say, don't eat this, right? You know those little packages? Well, those packages are in there to absorb moisture, okay? That's their job. So if you get moisture in the box, it doesn't destroy whatever's being shipped. Well, the same way works in the soil. And when the humates hit those silica wafers, they turn them into little sponges. The net of that is when you water, the water stays at the root level longer. It inflates those silica wafers, and they hold the water for a day or week, 2 weeks, and gradually release the water over time. But it doesn't just go right down through the root structure and go away. Okay, that's, I don't know what we're on, number 6. One more thing. In a lot of soils that people say, oh, this soil isn't fertile. This soil's no good. It's been over-farmed. Really what they're saying a lot of times is that the nutrients and a lot of the good stuff has all clumped together with each other. And they form this giant molecule of like 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 compounds that are all clumped together. And it's simply not available to the plant. The nutrients are there, but they're not available because they're just too darn big, okay? And what acids do, and by the way, all acids do this. This isn't just the humates are acidic, and that's an important property. And what the acids do is they approach these large molecules and they blow them apart into 100 pieces, to 1,000 pieces, and they blow them apart into very small pieces. And all of a sudden, the plants say, "Hey, look at that! Nutrients that they can get to, that they can see, and that are now available to them and not too big to ingest." Okay? So that's another thing that the humates do. So the scientific community has been jumping up and down, and the professors of agriculture and all that have been jumping down on their desks for 100 years saying you should really use humates. This is the best stuff. Instead of the fertilizers that the large companies sell that are just the NPK stuff, just nitrogen, nitrogen, nitrogen. Our stuff actually provides nutrition. And the fertilizers that are pushed on by the big companies, it's kind of like taking a guy that's malnourished. He just doesn't have any food. He's got no energy. And shooting him up with a bunch of methamphetamines to get him running. Okay, what happens there is the plant grows fast. It puts out big fruit, but there's almost no nutritional value in the fruit. And all it is just using up the land more and more and more. And this guy's even now he's even worse nourished because all he's done is had a drug shot into his system. Okay. Ours, on the other hand, our approach is to take the land and take it out and buy it a nice big dinner, with a chocolate shake and two hamburgers and a bunch of vegetables, and give him all the real nutrition and gradually get him back up to a healthy status, not just shoot him up with methamphetamine. That's our solution to nutrition for the plants, is serve them good food that's solid. And our product actually helps rebuild the soil. With our products, with the humates, the soil gets better as time goes on. The more you use, the better off it gets. Okay? Now, let's talk about another thing. Humates do their job in incredibly low concentrations. Okay? 10 parts per million. Bottom line on that is you use like a quart per acre or a pint per acre. Okay? And you can talk to our scientists and get the actual numbers for your particular soil and depending on what you're growing and so forth and so on. But the point I'm trying to make to you is our product, we're still talking about humates in general. Humates in general are incredibly economical to use. They are not expensive because 5 gallons goes a long way. I mean, you can get a lot of acres in for that, and you don't have to apply it all the time. You can apply it once per growing season, twice per growing season. Again, that varies by what kind of soil you have, how much water you have, what kind of crops you're growing. But the bottom line is it's almost doesn't register as a cost of farming. I mean, there's a lot of things about farming that are very expensive, and humates ain't one of them. I mean, they're a very economical product. So there's really no reason not to use them. So all I'm saying is the humates are good on good on good. It's completely organic stuff. At least our product is. We're busy getting our OMRI, as of the date this video was filmed, we're about halfway through our OMRI certification, and we're expecting our OMRI certification sometime at the beginning of 2017. Possibly earlier, who knows? Possibly by the end of 2016. Anyway, so that's kind of the humate story. It's a stone cold winner. There is an insane amount of academic studies about this, going back, hundreds of years, but most recently they've been studying it on wheat, they've been studying it on soy, they've been studying it on fruits, they've been studying it on everything, and this stuff is just it's nothing but good on good. Okay, so that wraps up my discussion of humates in general. Okay. Now, if you want to get some of the scientific studies that I talked about, you can go to our website, advancedeecoscience.com, okay, advancedeecoscience.com, go to our science, and you'll see some of the academic studies. There's studies from India, from Russia, from China, from America. There's intense like peer-reviewed journal articles, and there's some that are more, geared toward regular folks. There are textbooks on humates there. There's a wealth of information. If you're skeptical, my goodness, go read. There's 3,000 pages of docs up there that lays out the story for us from, professors, PhD level guys in universities who are studying this stuff, and they have real double-blind tests and everything, okay? So this is real science. This is not fad of the week, okay? But anyway, that wraps up my discussion of humates in general. Now, I'd like to move on and do the other half of the video. Hope this isn't going too long for you. And the other half of the video is what makes advanced ecoscience humates better than the competition. Okay. Number one, you have to understand something. We didn't start out to be in the humate business. Actually, one of our partners is one of the preeminent inventors of gold mining equipment. And one of the other partners in the company is one of the preeminent fabricators of new gold mining equipment. Those guys work together. They've worked together for 30 years. And Noel invents stuff that no one's ever thought of. And Jim builds that thing for him. And then, you know, they use it in the gold mining world, and they've been very successful doing that. Noel invented a revolutionary device that was supposed to be for gold mining. And he said, gee, I wonder what would happen if I put some leonardite in here. I wonder if I would get a good result. And we got a result that was so much better than he expected, it was shocking. In fact, originally we thought it didn't work because we didn't understand how well it worked. And eventually we got it tested, and it turned out that it was like 3 times as good as any other process anyone's ever seen. We've taken our product to some of our, quote, competitions, some of the people who are in the humate business, and showed them our product. And they said, wow, that is amazing stuff. I don't think you can make it in quantity. It's kind of like going to somebody and saying, hey, I've got, you know, premium unleaded for 50 cents a gallon. And the guy says, well, obviously that's a great product. I mean, obviously that's a winner, but we don't think you can do it. We don't think you can produce premium unleaded for 50 cents a gallon, and we're not going to take you seriously. You're a joker, okay? That's kind of the response we got. And the answer is, yes, we can make it in quantity. Yes, we can. And with our new technology, we got a world beater on our hands, okay? And we've solved a lot of the problems that have been plaguing the humate world because of our special equipment and the accidental nature of the discovery. And after that, we said, wow, you know, this is head and shoulders above what anybody else is providing in the marketplace. And I'll tell you why in a minute. We should go into the humate business, and that's how we accidentally found ourselves selling humates. Okay, so our humates are more finely ground than anything else on the market, than anybody else could make on the market. Ours are almost down to a microscopic molecular level. That's how fine this stuff is. Now, obviously, one of the advantages of that is that it can go through a spray rig, okay? You put it in there, boom, it goes right through the spray nozzles, and it's, you know, the spray nozzles could accommodate particles 100 times larger than what ours are, so it just goes right through. That's a given. But here's the better part of it, surface area. Now, let me give you an analogy. Suppose I walk up to you with a beet, okay, a beet, and you're wearing a white shirt, and I go bang on your shirt with the beet. Well, all I did was make a little quarter-sized stain on your shirt. I didn't, you know, wipe you out. I just, because most of the beets, the fruit is inside, and it's in there, and it's not exposed to your shirt, which means I can only make a small little, you know, quarter-sized stain on your shirt. I'm trying to stain you as much as I can. Well, what if I took that same beet, threw it in a blender, and hit puree for 5 minutes, and got it down to where it was just a freaking puree of soup, okay? Now, I take a bowl of that stuff, and I can cover your entire shirt and the guy standing next to you, okay? Because I've created surface area. I've exposed all that matter that was inside of that beet and made it available to stain your shirt, okay? That's why surface area is so important. Ours is super duper fine, and therefore it does an insane amount of work because it's all surface area. It's all spread out, okay? So fine ground is one. We have a second advantage. You know that all humates, we start with a raw material. We start with the leonardite, or what you might call coal. Okay, now, not all coal is created equal. The coal that the Chinese have, and a lot of other places in the world, in fact, a lot of places in America, have a lot of undesirable compounds in them. They have mercury, they have lead, they have all kinds of other bad stuff in them. And it's just the way they were formed. I mean, it was, you know, in prehistoric times, that's what happened. A lot of bad stuff got in there. Our feedstock, what we start with, has almost non-detect of all of the all the negative metals and things like that you don't want in your humates. Now that's not because of our process. It's just that we start with better stuff. We start with really pure stuff. And it's too bad because the Chinese simply don't have access to super pure stuff. It's just a fluke of geography that we found a location that has super pure stuff, and that's why. And it's not that our process takes it out, it's that it was never there in the first place because we buy from a really good source. Okay, so that's our second advantage. Our third advantage is because our final product is so fine ground, it actually doesn't need to be stirred. It actually goes up into a colloidal suspension. It actually just floats, and it takes about 2 weeks or 3 weeks for it to finally settle out of solution, the actual particles. So you don't need a stirrer. You don't need to worry about always stirring it up. It stays in suspension pretty much indefinitely. Next, we've talked about the fact that a lot of the value of humates comes from having the electrical charges, okay, that help things bond together, that helps pull the nutrients off and get them into solution. A lot of those are electrical interactions, okay? We use a secret trick to ionically charge our water before it gets into the product. And what that does is that gives the humates, which are also ionically charged, a boost because we're putting even more electrical charge into our product, which helps them get their job done better. Okay, so they already have electrical charges on them, which help them do their jobs. We give them an even more of a boost. Now, there are several other things that we do to help get the best product that we can that I'm not going to talk about. But trust me, we've got a couple of secret tricks up our sleeve that really help our product be head and shoulders above. I don't want to stand here and tell all the other humate manufacturers how to compete with us, but take my word for it. We've got 2 or 3 special goodies that we do that help it to be even better than average humates. Okay, so that's the next. Now let's talk about. I think I'm probably on number 5 now. When you have the coal, you have to tease the humic acids and the fulvic acids. Those are the 2 components of humates. You have to tease those out of the leonardite, okay? You have to get them to come out into solution. Okay, many of our competitors use alkali solutions, use other chemicals to cause that reaction to get the fulvic acids and the humic acids to actually separate and become independently available to the plants. Okay. The USDA has said some of those chemicals are acceptable and some of them are not acceptable. But in any case, we think that a lot of those chemicals are really not things that ought to be in the humates. And believe it or not, our humates only contain leonardite and reverse osmosis water that has been played with, and purified water, and that's it. We don't use any chemicals to tease the humates out. Our revolutionary process, and that's why it's called Innovation H1, our process doesn't use any chemicals. So you got no introduced impurities. That's one of the reasons why it's a piece of cake for us to get our organic certification, because we're not putting anything stupid into the humates before they get to the client. Well, that basically wraps up my presentation. To summarize, humates are great. Humates have always been great. Farmers have always known humates are great, and we're importing hundreds of millions of gallons of humates into America from foreign producers, and they're really bad. Most of them are just not good products. It's really too bad. Our humates are the best on the market. They're the finest ground. They're the purest. We use the best initial stock, and then we do a bunch of extra things to make them super effective. And it's an American-made product. So we think that you should, if you haven't tried humates, free samples. We give free samples. All you have to do is email us here or call us, and we will get you a free sample. We will coach you. We will help you figure out how to use them on your application for your crops. And we're here to help on that, okay? But you know, our attitude is, don't take our word for it. Grab a bottle of it, put it on an acre, prove it to yourself. If you like it, buy more. If you don't, call us and we'll tell you what you did wrong. Okay, listen, we'll look forward to talking to you. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you soon. We'll put up some more videos soon.